Good morning.
Good morning, Sharita.
Hi, Ruby. How are you?
I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm fine. Will I have so when it's my turn, will you give me some, you will allow me to share my screen?
Yes. Good morning, Pam. Good morning, Frida. Morning, Luz. Morning, Ruby.
Morning.
Um, so I may have to turn my camera off depending on what the baby is doing. My clinic is closed today, so I'm home. And this is me. You trying to see people? She's
Yeah.
not here. There she is. There she is in the camera. There she is. So what I'll probably do, I'll turn it on when I first start, and then I'll probably cut it off, just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks for joining, everyone. We will probably give about 3 minutes for people to join. Thanks for joining today's Effective Case Management in the Homeless Housing System workshop, our virtual workshop. Glad you are here. Sherry, glad you got that link. Good morning.
Yes, thanks, Lloyd.
You're very welcome. want to invite you, as we are waiting another minute or so, please put into the chat your name, what organization you work with, and how many of these effective case management workshops you've been attending. If you've been attending monthly, be helpful to just kind of know who we're reaching. And all right, we're going to get started. It's 3 after the hour. I am Lloyd Schmeidler. I'm a senior community development analyst in the City of Durham's Community Development Department. For those who may not know me, like most of us, we are working primarily from our home office, as I like to say. In these pandemic times, got word earlier in the week that at least for our department, community development, will be working from our home office through at least until the end of the summer. We're happy you've joined this effective case management series session today. This is kind of a hands-on two-part session. Thanks to Sharita's suggestion that we talk about understanding credit reports and understanding criminal background reports. We have a two-part session. Sharita is going to lead the first part on credit reports and what they mean and how to understand them. It might be helpful in our own personal lives, as well as certainly helping our clients understand their credit history and background. And then in the second part of the hour-and-a-half session, Pamela Jenkins from the North Carolina Department of Public Safety will be sharing information about criminal history reports available at the North Carolina Department of Public Safety website. Again, for those who are still joining us, please put into the chat your name, what organization you work with, and if you would, how many of the sessions you've been attending, whether you're attending monthly or this might be your first one. And also, as we go through today's session, if you have questions, I think we've found with Zoom, our experience has been that it's somewhat easier if people place their questions for our presenters in the chat box, and then periodically either Ruby or myself can ask those questions of our presenters. With that, I'm going to introduce Sharita McCullers, who needs no introduction, I don't think, in the Durham Continuum of Care. She's been a very active member of the Continuum, done a lot of work around with clients with disabilities. She's a licensed clinical social worker who works primarily through the Lincoln Community Healthcare for the Homeless Clinic at Urban Ministries. She has a new baby girl who was in her arms earlier this morning, and Sharita, thanks so much. Congratulations on the birth of your daughter, and please begin sharing around credit reports. Thank you.
Give me the Sharita.
Sorry, good morning, everybody. My name is Sharita McCullers. I'm not going to go back through introducing myself because Lloyd did a fantastic job. I'm here to talk to you about credit reports today. Ruby, I have access to share my screen.
Yes, ma'am.
So I'm going to share this document. The document is public. It's public knowledge. Ruby, can you still hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because something screwy just happened with my screen. I don't know why. Give me a second, guys. What's happening? Nope, don't disconnect me. All right. This information is public information, so you can find it again online. And for the purposes of today's session, we're going to be talking about understanding your credit report, and I'm going to be using this Experian explanation that I think is a pretty good explanation for it. But before I start, what I want to just add to this conversation is why is this important in the housing process? Because that's what we're focusing on. Being that we're a housing first community, it could potentially impact how soon barriers or additional needs that need to happen before you can move a person from homelessness to housing. It will, some of our folks are not native to Durham, and we may not have the relationships with the landlords like so many of us do already in the community. And so we might need to get information from other places. Sometimes our clients don't remember. I see in my work at the Healthcare for the Homeless Clinic, a lot of people with cognitive impairments, memory impairments, where they can't articulate kind of who the landlord was so that you can do a direct call. And it also helps you understand better a person's housing history. If they have any adverse housing things on their credit, because oftentimes a lot of our folks tell us they don't have any problems, that they haven't been evicted or anything like that. And I've had situations where I've had people sharing units with people, not realizing that their name was primary on leases, and the other person defaulted and now is on the other person's criminal report. Excuse me. And so, the credit report becomes important in the housing process. I will definitely say that it may not be an issue for every one of our patients, our clients. It may be specific clients. So in my experience, it's been persons who have been professional working people and some tragic health thing happened in their life and they're not able to function at the capacity that they were before. I had a man who had a stroke, so his memory was impaired. He couldn't articulate information. I needed to go further. I've had a client who was a very elderly gentleman who had spent some time living outside of the state of North Carolina. So for those people, especially, this is something you need to do as it relates to housing. Now, on the other hand, for, other clients, if you are an aftercare provider or somebody working with someone after their house, there may be things they want to turn their attention to and focus on just to get themselves in a better position to maybe, expand their options of housing. They may want to become homeowners or things like that. So looking at the credit report at that point would be, another stage where you might look at it. I just say that to say this is not something you have to do with every client. So be mindful of that. And some of our clients might not even be able to understand the magnitude of what's in the credit report. And so that's the purpose for us kind of doing this today. I also want to remind folks that you are entitled, me, and our clients are entitled to our annual report for free every year. It's important for us to kind of monitor our credit. Don't just pull one report. You have access to all three: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian. Different creditors, different landlords, different credit card account entities. They may not report to all of those reports. So it's very important for you not to just pull one, but to pull all three and to know what's on it. And so today I'm just going to go through just this lovely example that I think John did was kind of explaining what a credit report has on it. If you have any questions, disclaimer. I'm not going to say I'm an expert at this. I've used this process in my own personal life. I've also used it with clients. In my work with clients, it has resulted in some situations where people have not had to pay because there were things that the landlord didn't do appropriately, and therefore they could not hold the client accountable, and they actually had to remove the adverse housing situation from the person's credit report. So it can be it may make a difference in whether you have a rapid rehousing client and you don't have to pay off an old debt. So if you have somebody with a significant amount of money and they have been housed before and they have been evicted, I would strongly suggest that you pull their report. So the first thing you'll find on the credit report is, I'm gonna move on along, is your personal information. Every name you ever had is gonna be listed on that credit report. if you got married or you didn't have your middle initial on a credit card account, how many different ways you've used your name to secure credit is going to show on that report. Variations in your social security number can also impact that. Every address you've ever had will also come up on your credit report. This might be important when our clients can't remember their housing history, and some of our housing providers in the community may want to know where they lived for the last 7 years. This would be able to give you some of that information as well. It can also hurt you too, because if you use the annual credit report, or any of these credit report companies, you can do the applications online. You also can do a paper one, but I haven't been as successful with getting those back. The ones online, as a part of the verification process to determine if you are who you say you are, they ask you a series of questions, and it could be different credit accounts you've had, different addresses, different names, somebody you know who maybe lived in your house before and used the same mailing address as you. They will ask you a series of questions, and there on some of those questions, it's like it does not apply or non-applicable or something like that is there. So if your clients are not able to give that information accurately, you will not have access to the credit report. It will deny your date of birth will be there. Any phone numbers you've ever had and they recorded will be there. If they were in your name and under your social security number. If you've had a spouse before, so I've run into this with some of my clients when I'm applying for disability and they have memory impairments, they can't remember their spouses. So you can sometimes use it to get other information that you may not have thought about, using this resource as a means to get that information. Any of your current or former employers. So we have to talk about employment history, and our folks can't remember. I know for Social Security purposes, sometimes when folks apply, they always ask for a work history report. So you may be able to pull work history to complete an application process from the credit report as well. Any personal statements, you have the right to challenge anything creditors put on there. And this is another very important aspect to a credit report. You could, maybe have even, let's say, a landlord who has put something on your credit report, and you just want to have, some kind of message there from you, even if you're saying like, legally pursuing, rectifying this matter or anything like that. Also, a creditor could actually put notes or comments into something that shows up on your credit report, because everything doesn't disappear like you think it does. That's another reason why you should be checking your credit annually. So accounts. There are two different kinds of accounts that you'll find on your credit report. There are revolving accounts and installment accounts. And an example of a revolving account is like a credit card, a line of credit. So it's something where you have a limit. And you can spend up to $2,000. That's going to be what you would see on a revolving account. Your installment loans are more like a mortgage payment, rent payments. It's repetitive, but it's set. And usually the difference between the two is that you're going to see how much on a revolving credit account, you're going to see what your credit limit is and how much you spend on it. On an installment loan, you're going to see the total amount of the loan, and then you'll see like a breakdown of the monthly payment. I'm sorry, you guys. Give me 1 second. Have a teething baby. Tap it down. Okay. So these next couple sections here just kind of talk about how those accounts look. So of course, this is an example of how it would be structured on a credit report. It may not be in the same setup or the same order between the various credit entities, but you will see, an account name, an account number, the status of the account, whether it's open and current, meaning your payments are current, up to date, and you're paying them regularly. It will also talk about late payments, how much time payments are late, things like that. It's going to talk about the date that you open the account. It's going to tell you the type, whether it's a revolving account or a non-revolving account. It's going to show your credit limit. It's going to show your payment status. See your monthly payments there. It'll tell when your payments were late. It'll tell whether this is a joint account or your own personal account. It'll tell you more information about the terms, and you see the comment sections there. So the comments that the comment section is where the creditor can put something in the comments, and then your statements would go up under those. Also means to contact them. So if you are, if your client is needing to negotiate, resolve, dispute, they can also call, they can write to this the creditor as a means to try to resolve the account if it's in a deficit or default. It'll talk about, you'll also see collections information. So what creditors have written this off as you not paying. And then the information is listed there. And I'm being a little transparent. You can see that, especially with medical bills. Because when I went to pursue purchasing my home, that was something I actually had to, I had to clear these accounts. And I will add that sometimes you can negotiate with them and you may owe $5,000, but they may settle for $1,000. And then they'll note your account that as negotiated and paid in full. Yes.
Could we go back up about a page to those abbreviations or acronyms?
Okay.
Or number just
and just remember, can you guys see the link? Or you can just do a Google search for understanding your Experian credit report, and this document will come up. And those are important for you to know.
Thank you.
Talks about foreclosures. It talks about what's thinking. It'll tell you if it's paid. It'll tell you if the car is repossessed. I'm sorry. So I'm gonna have to pick her up, you guys.
All right, she is part of the team.
She is now part of the team. Okay, so we talked about collections, things that are in collections. When it was open, they can change this to paid in full as well. Paid and satisfied the account. They may also put notes in there if they give you a discount. All right, there you go, babe. And so then there's another section that just talks about public record information, especially around bankruptcies, chapter 7s and chapter 13s. Chapter 7s is when it's completely discharged. You don't have to pay anything back. You can start over. Usually most creditors won't allow you to pursue a new credit for 7 years. And then their credit inquiries, the chapter 13 is different. So the chapter 13, let me go back to that because I actually had a client with a chapter 13. So the chapter 13 is a form of bankruptcy that kind of consolidates all of your debt into a monthly payment, and you have a certain amount of time that you pay that off. I actually had a client at the Healthcare for the Homeless Clinic who actually had a house, but she was she had filed chapter 13. She was in a payment process, became disabled, income dropped significantly. And she also had some other things going on with her. The house was actually unfit to live in. And she was paying this like humongous $1,000 a month payment just on that alone, but she couldn't live in the house. And so we had to get creative on how to get her a stable place to live. But that's just an example just to say that it impacts the folks we serve too. Life happens to anybody, and you never know how it's gonna end up, or what I've learned in my work is you never know what you're gonna have to do to help a person get to a place where they can be stably housed. Let's see. So this is a section on medical information and disputing and what your rights are. I think this is very important information for you to know. By law, Esperion cannot disclose just certain medical information, but they can talk about the payment of the bills. Although you see a original creditor, although you can see the name of the original creditor that the collection debt was purchased from, it will display your lenders and others. It will display to your lenders and others during your credit report simply as a medical payment data. It's also important to know sometimes with those with the medical, as far as the medical information is associated, that sometimes different companies sell these collection fees to different collection agencies. And so what you might see on your credit report might not be the correct creditor. And you will probably only find out by calling that creditor to find out who it was transferred to. Because remember, you can only get a credit report annually, but different creditors use different reports. So it makes it very tricky. But I would encourage you to contact the person on there, see if they still have it. And if they don't, see who they've sold that information to. And usually they can give you the information of where you need to call. So that is the end of that document. I am available for questions if anybody has any. And as folks know, if you call me with the question, I'll try to help the best I can. And I can put my number in the chat or in my email. Thank you. Get the chat.
Okay. Feel free to unmute yourself if you'd like to ask a question of Sharita.
Let me stop sharing my screen.
Sharita, remind us how long are accounts and information maintained on the credit report? How many years back do we go? I mean, I've had a long life, so go back.
So what we hear is that after 7 years, things go off. I found that not to be true. It just depends on the creditor. I found that not to be true. I paid personally stuff that was 10 years old before. So I can't give you that answer.
Depends on the creditor, I suppose, or the account. Good. Well, that was a very helpful overview, I think. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, let me just make sure you guys know the official site, and I'll put it in the chat. So the official site to get your to request the 3 is www.annualcreditreport.com.
Good to know that, certainly for our own personal credit reports, as well as for clients we work with who are applying for housing, filling out applications with landlords, etc. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sharita. Then I'm glad Pam Jenkins has come on early. She was not scheduled to join us until 10:45 to start her presentation, but I see she has joined, and welcome, Pam. So Pamela Jenkins is currently the Deputy Director of Application Development for the North Carolina Department of Information Technology and supporting the Department of Public Safety's mission. Pam graduated from The Ohio State University in 1992 with a bachelor's in business administration and earned her project management professional or PMP certification in 2005. Pam is currently completing the North Carolina Chief Information Officer certification program through the UNC School of Government. She has worked in state government for the last 21 years and has in that time supported many Department of Public Safety sections. Her main focus has been on prison and community corrections, and she has been instrumental in the implementation of the Justice Reinvestment Act as part of the Reentry and Transition Project, and recently has played a vital role in supporting many COVID-19 initiatives for DPS, including extended limits of confinement, video visitation, and incentives for COVID-19 vaccination. So Pamela is a wonderful public servant to the people of North Carolina, and I'm really grateful, we're grateful that she has taken time to be with us today to share about particularly understanding offender reports via the DPS website. Thank you, Pam.
Good morning. Thanks for having me. What I want to start with is figuring out how to share my screen.
Yep.
Don't do Zoom calls too often, so we're going to try and see if this works. Let's see if I can get it.
Be a green button at the bottom, at least on my screen.
I've got it.
You started screen sharing according to my screen. There we are.
Are you seeing the website?
Yes.
Okay. So this is if you go to the ncdps.gov website, this is the homepage that you will land on. We're just going to talk about the things that are on this bar up here relatively quickly, so we can get in and talk about the offender's record. Our organization is comprised of several different groups: law enforcement, adult correction, juvenile justice, emergency management, Homeland Security, the National Guard, and the newest one is the Office of Recovery and Resilience. If you click on this, our organization, it gives you a little more detail, if it comes up, of what's incorporated under each of those. So our law enforcement includes everything from the Highway Patrol to the State Capitol Police. The adult correction is prisons and community corrections, but it also encompasses our rehabilitative programs and services sections and victim services. Juvenile justice is those community partners and court services. And I'm not going to read through all of these, but you can get an idea. It's very big and it's very broad in those that kind of support the citizens of North Carolina. Under the DPS services, there is, these are different things that are available that, like victim services, you can get permits and licenses, grants. This is our training academy. And then what we'll come back to in just a few minutes is this offender search. Careers that matter. This tab is all things jobs related to things available in DPS. So there is, you can look at information on jobs fairs. Under each of these for the different types of positions, it gives you information about what the position is in general. So if we look at correctional officers and their careers, it just talks about what are the requirements, what are the training, how you can apply for it. There are all sorts of jobs for all different types of people. And there's internships. And if you need additional information on any of that, there's a link to contact the recruiter. The About DPS page is similar to other about pages when you're on websites. It talks about the staff that work in the secretary's office or the administration office, and those that work in our research and planning, statistics and data. There are also some boards and commissions that fall under DPS. The news is where all of the press releases, information on news conferences that they've had, videos and photographs that may have been taken by the communications staff at DPS, and a calendar of events. And lastly, there's a contact tab, which gives you the ability to send an email to give you some recently or frequently called phone numbers, and then an overall directory. So let's go back to the services. The offender search, when you click on this tab, it brings up several different searches that are available. The offender public information, which is the one we're going to talk about most today, but there are also some the NC Save and searches for victims, that it's a way that they can go out and set up to get notifications about the offender when they're moving around, when they're being released, things that are happening to them while they are in the system, and that includes while they're in the jail. So the Save and information is for both the state prison while you're on probation or post-release, and if they're in the jail. There is a sex offender registry search, and then there is a secure search for our law enforcement officers. All right, so let's go back in here. So when you're looking for information about an offender, or I mean, any person, if my understanding is y'all are looking more for those that are actively on probation or parole, have come out and are in the community. There's also, you can also search for active inmates that are in the prison. You can search on people who are no longer active, or you can search on all of them. So today we're just going to pick a simple person to start. Y'all need to chime in, because I am not really sure on what is really important that you want to know about, or things that you're having trouble knowing about when you look at it. So we're just going to pick a simple one. You can put any number. You can start with a full last name, a partial. You can just put the first initial if you know what a middle initial is. If you happen to know, or you have an offender in front of you that tells you, yeah, I've been in prison and this is what my number is, you can search them just by that number. You can narrow it down with other demographic information, and with the birth date, you can pick a number of years away from, if you don't know exactly. When you search, I just put in a last name and a first initial. So it brings a bunch of people back. In here, you can also click, like, I want to pick somebody who the name starts with JA. So you can click on any of these columns and it'll sort it for that column. So let's just pick this one. When you pick a person and get the results back, this top box is going to show you just basic, more demographic type information, and where they're being supervised out of. So which office is supervising that offender. The next piece of information is you're going to see any of the names that we have recorded for him in our system. Most of the committed names are the names that are on the sentence that the offender received. And then there's aliases if they happen to go by a different name. An incarceration record is a record for when they were in the prison. This particular offender does not have one. A period of supervision record is a record for them being out and receiving a sentence in the community. So it's probation. They never had to go to prison for whatever the crime was. They just received a sentence to be served under supervision with probation and parole. What is always shown is the most recent one is first, and then it goes backwards historically. So for this offender, he has his most recent period of supervision was for larceny, and he was convicted of that in October of 2020, and the amount of time to be served was 18 months. So he is still currently serving that sentence. He also, prior to that, had received a sentence for larceny and was convicted in 2014. This one does not tell me how long he had to serve for that sentence. However, because this is an initial sentence and this is an initial sentence, he's no longer serving that. So if you were looking at this offender, at this person, and he has been convicted of a larceny crime twice in his lifetime. Is that kind of what you all are looking for?
Yes, I think that's helpful. Pam, is there a way of identifying, like for this individual, he's on probation? How would one find who his probation officer would be?
I don't know that there's a way to do that. There is not a way to do that in here, other than it tells you which district and
Okay.
office that they're currently supervised through. But we don't make public who their supervising officer is. It's more for the security of the officer.
Sure.
Hi, Miss Pam. Can you, so I use this all the time. Thank you so much for presenting this information to us. Can you talk about when this box up at the top that says no photo available says absconder, or when it says that the person is incarcerated and available for you to see the picture?
Yeah, I can do that. So absconders, there's tabs at the top. Finding the absconder one is, let's just do it here, because then you'll see those a lot easier. I can just pick somebody. So Caleb Clayton, let's go back.
What do we
to-
mean by an absconder?
Yeah, let me pull him up and then we will talk about what it is.
Can I just add while she's pulling up? If they have
There we
that
go.
status, if they add that status and this patient or client is a person who is applying for, trying to apply for Social Security benefits, they will not be able to complete that process. You cannot have this status and go forward with a disability claim.
All right, so the absconder, as was being referenced, an absconder is someone who is on or post-release, being supervised by community corrections, and they have done their best to make sure that nobody can find them. So it's kind of like escaping from prison. They've escaped their supervision, but out in the community, it's not really an escape. They are not complying and showing their contacts with the probation officer. So, and when we put that absconder, as you see in the message below, those are the ones where, yeah, if you've seen this person where they are, please let me know. Because they're trying to make sure that they always know where the people that they're supervising are, and that there are certain communication requirements that the offenders are supposed to have with the officers.
Can I add something to that?
Yep.
It's very important for us to encourage our clients to turn themselves in. I turn that around from reporting where the person is to encouraging them to resolve this. It's a very delicate situation with our clients because we can't serve, sometimes we can't serve them and meet the needs that we really need to meet with them like we need to. And then the second issue is that sometimes our folks are not absconders just because they are trying to flee. Some of our folks don't have a place to stay. They're sleeping on the streets. Depending on what their charge is, like a sex offender charge, they may not be able to find anywhere to go. Our folks oftentimes don't have phones, and sometimes for people in that situation, their primary means of getting in contact with their probation and parole person is by phone. So, we have a unique situation sometimes with some of our clients just based on the lack of resources that they have. So I try to turn it around and encourage them to go in, or I will sit with them. I will, and we will call the probation officer and we will try to clear the status. get the status cleared, have the client turn themselves in so that they can make this right. And if I need to advocate on their behalf, if you need to advocate on their behalf, like there may be some good reasons why they were not able to be located, then and then we can do so. Sometimes our folks are in the hospital, things happen. So it's important when you see this to understand what it means, and it's important for us to try to assist our clients in any way we can to resolve these issues.
Very good point. I sit on the other side of it, so you have to keep me straight. And then as you mentioned, you can click if you click this, you'll see the photo. I'm just not going to do it because everybody has access to all the information, but there are certain, if you're just on probation and you have not absconded or you haven't been in prison, I don't believe that you can see the picture, but they do make it available on absconders because they're looking for them. All right, what else did you ask me to go over?
Hi, Ms. Pam.
Yes.
I have a question about this. It's very useful. I know that we've used it in the past before. I'm wondering if someone was recently arrested or recently had charges, would they show up on here? Or is this just, if they've been sentenced or incarcerated?
Good question. This is only for information after an offender has gone to court and been convicted of their crime. If they are sitting in the jail, that information is not known to the system.
Great, thank you.
Christy, I will add that you are able to, if you do, Durham County makes their jail list visible. So there is another site that you can do Durham County, you can do a Google search for Durham County jail roster, and it will come up, and you can search for your client to see if they are in jail.
Excellent, thanks, Sharita.
I wanted to look at just one more person because the data people look different, especially if the one we looked at was a probation person. They had never been in prison. So this person has been in prison. Look at him, you'll see his status says post-release. That means he served his sentence in prison and he is doing post-release his time out of the prison to finish the rest of it. Those are usually 9, 12, or 60 months, depending on what their crime was. And in those cases, you see similar information, if they have any aliases. It shows you, like on the other guy, it had no prior incarceration history, where this one now has a most recent incarceration history. He was in prison for this crime, but he is currently out on post-release. And that's just a summary of things. So the next box is kind of like a repeat. It's the same thing. It's telling you this is the first crime that he came in for in prison. He was convicted in 2015, and he served his sentence, and he was eligible to go out and did go out to his post-release and parole on November of 2020. And he's expected to be out there and on supervision until August of 2021. This projected and actual release dates is when he ended his prison sentence, the part of it that he served in the prison. Does that make sense? Because it looks a little bit different than the ones for probation.
Pam, this is helpful. A question that comes to mind, this is Lloyd again, would be occasionally, are there errors in this information?
Sometimes. There are times that the offense may be almost right, the way the court system works is there may be several different flavors of whatever a crime is. So like this trafficking, there may be a couple of different things. The one we see the most is like DWIs. If they get convicted of a DWI that has a moving violation and then there's a code for it that says if there was a death involved or if there was not a death involved. It's possible that the wrong one could be entered and there was no death involved in the crime and someone just put in the wrong code and it has that there was a death involved.
Sure.
And that makes a difference to people.
Sure. So if we encounter someone in our work who says, well, that's not right, could you describe the process that a person could take to get the record corrected?
I'm not sure I know what the process is, but usually we refer everybody to go to that contacts on the DPS page and send an email. And then someone will get that at the main number or the main email address, and they will direct that to the appropriate place.
Gotcha. Very good. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Pam, I have a comment and I have a question. I think I need to ask, I'm gonna ask you, well, I'll make the comment first. Just so that folks know, if a person has a class H or I felony, which are drug trafficking related charges in the state of North Carolina, they are not eligible for SNAP benefits. They are not eligible for food stamp benefits. They're going to get denied every time. I need you guys to understand that. That means that person is food insecure. And if we house them and they are not employed, they're going to have issues with food.
Right. And what she's talking about is this right here. So with this one, it's a class I felony. And this it'll go from class A through J.
My question, Ms. Pam, is there an expiration date for how long this information exists in this space? Like after 10 years, does it wipe out and maybe start over if the person continues to commit crimes?
No.
Or, okay, it just stays on there and builds. So I could find something for the last 40 years from somebody if they all happened in this state and they were convicted of it.
Yes.
Okay.
So let me see if I can. Pick somebody. So this person hasn't been active with us since 2009, but we have all of his history all the way back to 1976. So our system never gets rid of the information. As many times as they come in and out, whether it's prison time or whether it's on community corrections and probation or parole, that information is just added on to. So you will always be able to see every crime that they've ever been convicted of. And that's the key thing though, they've been convicted of it. If they've had other crimes that they went to jail for and they were either pled down to something different or they were dismissed out of it for whatever reason, you're not going to see that information, at least not from here. And Lloyd, I think that's all I have. And I appreciate the questions as they come up because I really wasn't quite sure what everybody wanted to know about this data.
Ms. Pam, do you know anything about the I've had to do it before for some of my clients where this site didn't have a complete list, and I actually had to call the SBI to try to get an indigenous, it's some kind of program called Indigenous something program where the SBI will send me like a full criminal record for that person.
It depends for a full criminal record. What do you mean?
I had a person I was working with. I was trying to help them. I think I was trying to help them with the immigration status or something. And I got this report and they submitted it and CIS said it wasn't complete. The immigration folks said it wasn't complete. So I had to try to figure out how do I get a different report, and I ended up getting
Oh.
connected to the SBI. I don't know
Okay.
why it was different, but it was different. And then once we got that report, it went through and it was fine, and the person was able to do. It was the first time I ever had a situation like that, but I guess it's the same thing as somebody making an error.
Well, that, and we don't include federal crimes in this process because they're not convicted in state court, they're convicted in federal court. So anything federal, or if they happen to be an Indian and they were convicted of something and it's an Indian reservation, that information is not known to the state system because it's not part of the state system. But the State Bureau of Investigation has information from all of those places on offenders.
Good to know. Thank you so much.
All right, Lloyd, I'll just hand it back to you unless anybody else has any other questions.
Do we have any other questions for Ms. Jenkins or Sharita? All right, well, you guys have been very attentive. Thank you very much for participating. Again, I want to extend, we don't have a good way to express appreciation online. There is, if you go to the reactions link at the bottom of your screen, you can give applause or a thumbs up, or perhaps cry if you wish, with some of those emoticons there. But really want to express a lot of appreciation to Pam Jenkins for her service to the state of North Carolina, and certainly to us in taking some time to prepare and to present this information to us. Pam, we're very grateful for your making time for us today and sharing an overview of this with us. I think it's been very helpful to those who participated, and hopefully others will be able to take advantage of the recorded session on our COC website. Sharita as well, thank you for suggesting this topic to us. I think it's very, very practical, as you know, which is why you suggested we cover it, and very important information for both understanding credit reports and criminal history reports to our process of helping people get rapidly rehoused when they experience homelessness in our community. So if there are no further questions, we're going to end our meeting. It's a little briefer one. I want to highlight with a preview of coming attractions, our next section on in June. It was brought to our attention that June 18th, which is the original date for our session, is a new city holiday for city employees, celebrating the Juneteenth holiday. And at this point, we're still determining how we're going to handle that. Since I'm working from the home office anyway, we'll have to see whether I can host the session. We may have to reschedule, but at this point, we're still scheduled for June 18th. And that session is going to be all about shared housing, particularly developing a system-wide commitment to implementing shared housing throughout the Durham continuum of care. We have scheduled to be with us via a Zoom meeting, Jamie Taylor, who is the director of the Shared Housing Institute.com. You can search for that website, sharedhousinginstitute.com, and her organization is promoting shared housing as a viable solution to help us end homelessness, and she's promoting that throughout the nation, and there are several communities that are having good success in using shared housing to rehouse people experiencing homelessness. So she will be with us, so stay tuned for more information about that as that date approaches. We are currently planning to take a break from these monthly sessions for the month of July. As typically we try to slow down our lives at least a bit for July. But thanks again, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Pam and Sharita, for leading us today.
Lloyd,
With that, yes,
this is
Malcolm.
Malcolm. I just wanted to see if I could make a comment real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
So I just wanted to make a not quite a public comment, not as a recorded meeting, but I wanted to make a comment that just on my end, I would like to say that I'm in favor of rescheduling the June 18th session so that we can support the city's decision to honor the Juneteenth holiday. And I would just like that to be taken into consideration.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Appreciate that thought. Any other questions, comments for the good of the order? If not, have a great day, everybody. Enjoy the weekend. And again, thanks, Pam and Sharita, for what you've done for us today. We appreciate it very much. Have a great day, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.